Leaving Essaouira, Morocco on the Atlantic Ocean was a big deal for me. I spent 2 weeks there. It was glorious. It was social. It was cool. It was exotic. It was spiritual. I had my harangue with my girlfriend who had to leave her behind, and it was rough. But somehow, some way, I found another partner, Nancy Thompson, and we said a sad goodbye and left and went on a bus to Marrakesh. And my saga at the end of the world at Essaouira, Morocco had ended. So week 9 is a week of travel. We start out in Essaouira, then we take the bus to Marrakesh, spend a couple of days there, then take the Marrakesh Express back to Casablanca. A couple of days there, get some visas and things, up to Rabat. That's on the ocean, you can see as well. Then across to Meknes, and then to Fez. Once we got to Casablanca, we hitchhiked from Casablanca to Fez. So it was quite an experience. And it was very interesting with me taking advantage of the fact that I was traveling with a blonde female, which according to the Moroccans was incredible because they just loved long, blonde, straight hair. And I could ride along. But one of the things you'll see what happened along that route is that poor Nancy starts to become victimized whenever I turn my back. But this will be a week on the road, basically, getting from Essaouira over to Marrakesh, Casablanca, then over to Fez. One of the cool things about travel is that sometimes, even though you don't know where you're going and you're in all kinds of brand new places, you have the experience of going back to a place that you've already been to. So that was really incredible because I knew Marrakesh. I felt like a veteran. I had spent a week there. I knew where to eat. I knew where to drink. I knew where to get stuff. And I knew about the hotel scene and the social scene. So there's this incredible experience of being a veteran traveler who's returned to his roots back to Marrakesh. I'm like an expert on Marrakesh. Yeah, that was kind of cool, but it was fun to know where I was going for once I got into town, instead of coming in totally ignorant. Marrakesh, of course, is still the vital, wonderful city. And it was interesting because some of the old crowd that we left behind in Marrakesh was still floating around. So there was this kind of cultural thing of Westerners who had aggregated and gathered in Marrakesh. It made things fun, it made things more comfortable. And in fact, I wound up running into one of my Formentera 5 group, Dan Goldberg from Vermont. And that was fun. And it was like, oh, big reunion. So you start thinking you're some kind of a big shot and you know people. It really changes the way you look at things instead of being this kind of leaf blown in the wind. And also in Marrakesh, I picked up letters from home. Oh, that was a big deal. I had used Marrakesh as an address, and apparently I had missed it or didn't get to the American Express office, but getting those letters, that really knocked me around. And it started making me think about the future, what kind of life I was going to live, when am I getting home, how am I getting home? So many elements of uncertainty left me feeling kind of raw, but still enjoying this idea that I was the hippie on the road, enjoying myself. So it was always this kind of irony and this clash, if you will, of me doing what I wanted to do and my super ego telling me to get home and get on with the rest of my life. So Nancy and I am partners in travel, and I'm getting broke. She's trying to get some money, so money was a big deal. And we spent a couple of days in Marrakesh, again, having understood the town at least this time. And we had to get a visa for one place because we were going to be going into 2 countries that we knew we needed special visas for. One was Algeria and the other was Tunisia, so that we could get from Tunis and go up to Sicily and then be in Italy and then go up Italy to Rome. But the idea of needing visas was a foreign idea. Morocco didn't require it. But I would hear these things by talking to people, and we wound up finding the Algerian embassy, and we got ourselves visas, and that was a big deal. And that was why we had to spend a couple of days in Marrakesh. And even though we enjoyed the exotic and wonderful culture, we were kind of in need of getting moving, a large part of it because we were running out of money, both of us. It was the Marrakesh Express in reverse. Yeah, we were singing the song, all aboard that train, but it was different when you're leaving instead of coming. So Stephen was leaving, and I'm on my way back to Casablanca for more visas and things that I had to do and drudgeries. But taking the train was kind of cool, and it was the way to go when you're in Morocco. All aboard that train, the Marrakesh Express, backwards. Casablanca is a big city, and I'm a veteran there too. I know my way around. I find my way in a couple of days to some really cool places where they play the Moroccan music and the men are smoking the keef in the long pipes and the drums are playing, the flutes are fluttering, and I'm there doing it. And I would be leaving Nancy behind because she didn't have that same sense of adventure that I had, and I wasn't going to let her drag me down. So I spent a couple of incredible evenings with the local Moroccans, enjoying the music. And the music was a big deal to me. Part of that was I had my harmonica. Yes, I bought a harmonica in Amsterdam when I first got to Europe. And I'd be playing that and having some fun with it. But along the way, I found a Moroccan flute. It was really more of a recorder. And I started playing that. So my little playing and fluttering around was kind of a fun for me. It wasn't much for others to listen to, but more like the kind of music that I enjoyed playing for myself. But the music was something I started to carry with me. And my playing on my flute was starting to get more and more fun. And as you'll see, as the travel goes on, I started to get to the point where I was kind of performing. I mean, we were desperate for music because I am no professional performer on the music, that's for sure. But it was fun. Now we're getting into the real road stuff. Yep, Nancy and I literally hitchhiked from Casablanca, going through Rabat, again on the road, all the way to Meknes, and we wind up in Fez. This took us a few days, a couple of days actually. We spent one night in Meknes, and it was really cool because we really got to exchange and be involved with the local people because Moroccans is who picks you up. There's no real tourists driving around in December in Morocco. And it was a lot of fun and interesting, a little scary, and some adventures. But we did follow this road from Casa to Rabat, over to Meknes and Fez by total hitchhiking, which we thought was pretty damn cool. Being big shots on the road, hippie kids traveling and getting where they wanted to go, really for nothing. In fact, people would take us out to dinner. They kept buying us meals. I think a lot of it was having a blonde woman with me because I wasn't that attractive. I was looking kind of scruffy, and she looked kind of neat and relatively attractive. So this leg of the journey from Rabat to Meknes and Fez is when things started to really change as we were hitchhiking and we were exchanging ourselves a lot with the local people, and whoever would pick us up, you kind of get stuck with somebody, and these situations could become quite tense. And of course, Nancy was suffering the brunt of this with this long blonde hair. It was straight, and it just seemed to attract these people like a beacon. And every time I turned around, as I mentioned earlier, all of a sudden these guys apparently were doing things I wasn't seeing it because they would make sure I turned my head and they would sneak around with Nancy. But Nancy was getting crazier by the minute. Things kept happening. She's screaming. We got thrown out of cars because she wouldn't sit with them. And it just started to get more and more tense for poor Nancy from Washington State. And I'm just floating along because basically it's not affecting me. In fact, it does affect me because I'm getting easy rides, but I'm also quizzing myself. Why do we keep getting thrown out of vehicles? What the hell's going on here? But it was very sneaky on the part of these Moroccan locals who wanted nothing but, apparently, Nancy. Even though we were on the road, and Fez was along the way on the road, it could well have been a destination. The place Fez was famous to me. Of course, the red fezzes and all these things that people wore. The Fez hat was so famous, but the city itself had a mystique to it. And the mystique was built around what probably is the most fantastic market in the world. It's in a bowl, and people come in and out of it only knowing when they're leaving, when they start going up, and when they go down, they're going into the market. It was a fantastic environment, and it could well have been a place to go and stay for days and days. But we were going to spend a couple days or a few days there while we were there because it was really a magical, mystical place that had a lore and legend of its own. It had a huge Jewish quarter. It had gold, it had silver, it had shops. It was really quite the Mecca for staying and praying and having a great time, not the Mecca like in Saudi Arabia, but a shopping Mecca. And we really were enjoying ourselves in Fez. In fact, we were trying to get some money. Nancy kept going out to get money in the morning and we couldn't get it. And somehow or another, she had some arrangement to get money there. The market of Fez was so vibrant. It had different sections. The area behind me is an area filled with dyes. They were dyeing leather. I don't know what they were dyeing. And then you walk into another area of the market and it's a totally different situation. They're selling chickens, or they're selling robes, or they're selling jalabas, or they're selling who knows what. It was while I was in Morocco and in Fez that I thought to myself, I need something warm. I'm going north. And I decided I would buy a jalaba and a leather bag, as all the Moroccan men wore. Preview of week 10. We'll be spending a couple of days in Fez, Morocco, the fantastic enchanted city of the great market. We'll be going on to Taza and spending a couple of days with a police officer in his home. Then hitchhiking to Oujda, which is a terrible town at the border with Algeria, then crossing the Algerian border into a communist land, even though it had Arabic and Muslim influences and French influences. At this time, it is communist, making for a very strange entry, and there wasn't any real action between the countries, so the border was a very quiet place because of the political situation. Then we get into Algeria and we hitchhike to Iran, which was quite a distance for us. And we get there, spend a night in a very metropolitan city, and that is a summary of our week 10 adventures. See you then. Nancy and I just arrived at the Hotel Candide in Casablanca. We're going to hang out here for a few days before heading to Fez. Tomorrow we're going to the embassy to obtain an Algerian visa. Now that we are settled in, I need to get away from Nancy. I make my way through the winding streets where I come upon a locals-only place above a cafe. I sit up here for hours on end with the Moroccans. I drink the glorious mint tea in tall glasses and share in smoking some keef in long pipes. The Moroccans are very friendly people. The ever-present music spills from all directions. The people are very exciting and exotic. I can't understand them to communicate well, but I can enjoy them as people and share in their customs. I love Morocco. Next day, and we are off to the embassy. We wait in line for several hours, nothing to do but wait. Finally, we receive our Algerian visas. It looks really great and exotic on my passport, filling a whole page. I spend another evening at a second-floor rooftop table in another locals-only cafe. Tomorrow morning, we will attempt a hitchhike from Casablanca to Fez. It's December 13, 1970, and we're in Fez, Morocco. The trip ahead across North Africa is going to be a dazzler. This morning, I wake up just before noon with music blaring,
loud Arab music across the street from the hotel. Nancy is snoring in my face, still out. Laying in bed next to me, I start penning in my journal. Who is this Nancy Thomas that I find myself reluctantly tethered to?